This story happened a few days ago. I only thought of posting it today. Lately, I have been stressed due to school, as this year they gave us a new curriculum that our school system isn't designed for. So I decided to go for a walk in the park before it's too cold. For context, during the event of the story, I was walking on a pavement, and there were some children playing in front of me and a bit to the right. Also, please note that I am underage myself, so anyways. As I was walking, I saw the children in front of me. One of them looked at me, so I smiled to him. After a little bit, a woman who looks between the age of 25 to 30 storms to me. "Karen, why are you smiling at my kids, you creep?" Me. "Excuse me, I just smiled at your kid." "Leave the park right now," she was screaming. I reply with a no. She shouts louder. "Leave right now, or I'm calling the cops." "Call them." Karen calls the cops, so I sit at a nearby bench until they arrive. I texted my parents and told them what happened. They asked if they needed to come, and I said no, not really. Cops arrive 5 minutes later. Cop 1. "What seems to be the issue, ma'am?" Karen. "This creep here assaulted my poor child." Cop 2. "Sir, what do you have to say in defense of yourself?" A nice woman who looked around 50 years old appeared to say, "Wait." She walks towards us. "Officer, I have been sitting nearby and she is lying. This kid didn't even get close to her kids." Cop 1. "Are there any security cameras around?" "I don't know about the US and Europe, but here there are security cameras around because fights are common." Cop 2 points at a nearby pole. "There I see one." Cop 1. "Okay, I'm going to check the recordings." Cop 2. "You stay with them and no one moves a foot from here." Karen, surprisingly, is still looking smug for a reason or another. Cop 1 comes back and says, "Ma'am, this kid didn't assault your children. However, you will be charged with insert a few charges here related to false report and misuse of emergency number and whatnot." Karen, before they even could react, slapped me across the face. The cops immediately reacted by restraining her. Cop 2 is handcuffing Karen, and Cop 1 asks me if I'm okay. Me. "Yeah, I'm fine." Cop 1. "Sir, if you don't mind, I will need your ID as I need to put all of this in a report." Me. "I don't have it." "Sir, then I will have to fine you." "I'm still underage." "Oh, okay." Cops arrested Karen for multiple charges. I don't know the exact details. I thank the old woman who tried to help me, though sadly they didn't listen to her. She told me that Karen is here every week and she comes here to laugh a bit. 2 months ago, I, a 27-year-old female, was talking on the phone with my 52-year-old dad about an upcoming visit my stepsisters were planning for a couple of days. The conversation turned into small talk and catching up on our daily lives when he changes the subject and very casually mentions physically abusing my mom when they were married. This was the first time I had ever heard of anything like this happening and am beyond shocked. For a little backstory knowledge, my parents divorced when I was 3, so I have no memory of them being together. After divorcing, my dad remarried to my stepmom who had 3 kids of her own already. I am the only child of my parents. My stepmom had multiple sclerosis and passed away when I was 15. After she passed away, my dad made many bad financial decisions and essentially ended up being homeless. Because my parents had been on good terms despite being divorced, my mom offered to let him move into her basement as a temporary renter until he gets back on his feet. So currently, my dad is renting the basement in my mom's house. Anyway, I can't remember what we were talking about when he said it, but after he did, I was stunned and asked him to repeat himself. He then continues to casually repeat what he said and even adds to it, saying it was very bad and there were a few times he scared himself with how badly he had beat her, but then quickly says he learned from it and changed and never once hit my stepmom. I'm floored, uncomfortable, and confused and make an excuse to end the phone call. I'm so shocked by what he said and the way he said it that I immediately told my boyfriend and started sobbing. My boyfriend then suggests I take some time and talk to my mom about it and get her side of things. So I do. I invite her to my place for dinner and let her know there's something serious I'd like to talk about. My mom comes over and I tell her about the conversation and how upset I am. She confirms what he said and adds to it. She tells me that all throughout their marriage he was incredibly controlling, dictated what she could or could not wear, who she could talk to, and where she could go, to the point that she wasn't allowed to go to the grocery store by herself. She said it reached a point where she felt so isolated. She's from the Philippines and immigrated to the U.S. when they married, so she had no connections here, and depressed that when he beat her, she almost wished she would die, and then said there were a couple times that the physical abuse was so bad she almost thought he was going to kill her. I'm stunned. I've always seen my dad as a quiet, gentle man. Sure, I've seen him mad before, but never imagined him capable of abuse in any way. I asked her why she never told me about it, and she said it was because she wanted me to have a good relationship with my dad and not hate him. She then tells me she forgave him for it a long time ago, and she'd like for me to do the same and let it go. But I can't let it go. Over the next month, my sisters come to visit and stay with me for a couple days, and I also go to a baseball game with him and my boyfriend. I don't talk to him on the phone in between the social visits, and the conversation isn't brought up again by him either. During the visit and the game, though, I become very aware of the way he interacts with my sisters, the way he talks to them and me, and his general attitude, and start to notice he exhibits what could still be abusive tendencies. He's very controlling over every little thing, is quick to argue, and is emotionally manipulative with everyone. I start to realize that he constantly talks down to me and at the same time makes everything about himself. I start to feel uncomfortable around him to the point that I'm getting anxious at the thought of talking to him. I begin avoiding phone calls and text messages, and when I do respond, I'm short. I can feel the anger and resentment brewing in me and know I need to confront him. I want to tell him off for the abuse he put my mom through, for the bad way he decided to tell me about it, and the continued negative behaviors he still had. It takes me some time, but I write everything I'm thinking and decide to talk to him about it. I ask to call him and let him know I'd like to have a discussion. I'm nervous, but hopeful that having a deep conversation will resolve everything. Well, things go south, and it goes south quickly. Armed with what I wrote and a determination to stay calm, I breach the subject with him. Immediately, he's defensive. He cuts me off, yells over me, and despite my many pleas for him to just give me a minute to talk, he continues to yell and very abruptly hangs up on me, leaving me shocked and crying yet again. The highlights of the conversation are such. It wasn't his fault for the abuse because he had PTSD from the military. The abuse also wasn't completely his fault because it takes two, and I need to shut up because it's not my place or my concern to be mad at him for something he did 20+ years ago. After the disastrous call, I put my phone in the other room and tried to focus on spending time with my boyfriend. When I do look at it again, 2 hours later, I have 5 missed calls and many, many nasty texts from him. I respond by saying that I don't wish to talk anymore because he had his chance and he spent the whole time yelling disgusting excuses at me, and I need some space. He continues to text despite me again asking him to leave me alone. The texts and calls continue, so I block him on everything. It's been almost a month now, and I'm starting to doubt my decision. Was I wrong for cutting him out? Should I try to reach out and reconcile? I think it's knowing that holidays are approaching that I feel this doubt and pressure to fix things, but honestly, each time I consider it, I can't bring myself to do it. I'm still so angry, disappointed, and disgusted by him and his behavior that the thought of trying to talk makes me so anxious it feels like my skin is crawling. Last weekend, I decided to unblock him in the hopes that maybe he'll try reaching out. So far, he hasn't. I also went to see my mom on Sunday, thinking he would be at work, and he came home while I was over and walked right past me without any sort of acknowledgement. I don't know if I should force myself to do the uncomfortable thing and try to talk again, or if I should continue my new normal of not having a relationship with my dad. Edit. I have also talked to my sisters, 30-year-old and 34-year-old females, about everything. Those conversations have added another layer on top of everything. Growing up, I spent most of my time at my mom's. She had main custody, and so I was only ever at my dad's during the weekends and part of summer break. They have shared that there were times where they were physically abused by him and their mom, my stepmom, and so is why they have been low contact with him since moving out and don't have much of a relationship. They both live a few states away, and so I assumed the reason for their minimal time spent with him was due to distance and being busy taking care of their own families. As it is, I have a great relationship with both of them, and I only talk to them maybe twice a month on the phone and see them only once a year because life keeps us all busy. I know it seems stupid for me to not have known about it, but they assumed I had always known all along and didn't bring it up because I didn't want to discuss it. I had no idea. I never saw the physical abuse when I was at his home, and I now think him and my stepmom must have intentionally done that, so I wouldn't tell my mom and risk his custody. My sisters are supportive of my decision to be no contact, and one has said that my decision to attempt talking to him about the past and to hold him accountable is something she always wanted to do but never has. I now feel like I need to stay strong in my boundaries for not just myself but for my sisters and my mom. He's so much worse than I thought, and I'm still struggling with that truth, but I'm no longer struggling with doubt and guilt of my actions. For everyone suggesting counseling, please know that I am actively working on finding a therapist through my insurance network and will be scheduling an appointment as soon as possible. I was browsing through my favorite bookstore looking for something new to read when I noticed a woman giving me the evil eye. I didn't think much of it at first, assuming she was just having a bad day. But as I continued to browse, she approached me. "Excuse me, can you move?" she asked, gesturing towards the shelf I was standing in front of. I stepped aside and smiled politely. "Sure, no problem." But as I walked away, I heard her mutter under her breath, "About time." I brushed it off and continued my search for a new book. A few minutes later, I found myself engrossed in a new novel when I felt a tap on my shoulder. "Excuse me," the woman from earlier said. "I think you dropped something." I looked down to see a book on the floor that definitely wasn't mine. "Oh, thank you," I said, picking it up and examining it. "That's my daughter's book," the woman said. "She put it down for a minute and you just snatched it up without even asking." "I'm sorry, I didn't realize it belonged to someone else." "Well, maybe you should pay more attention next time," the woman snapped. "You entitled millennials always think the world revolves around you." I rolled my eyes at the comment, but decided it wasn't worth arguing about. I returned the book to the woman and went back to my browsing. But the woman wasn't finished with me yet. As I was checking out, she appeared out of nowhere and cut in front of me in line. "Excuse me," I said. "I was here first." "Sorry, sweetie, but my time is more valuable than yours," she said with a smirk. I was starting to lose my patience with this woman, but I didn't want to cause a scene, so I let her go ahead of me and waited my turn. As I was leaving the store, I saw the woman berating the cashier for not giving her a discount on her purchase. I couldn't help but feel sorry for the poor girl. But before I could leave, the woman turned to me and sneered, "I hope you're happy with your boring book." I just smiled sarcastically and said, "Oh, I'm thrilled. Thanks for asking." As I walked away, I couldn't help but think that some people were just never satisfied. But at least I had a good story to tell my friends later. And who knows, maybe I'll write a book about entitled parents someday.